Today we are doing rational functions again, but we are simplifying rationals using addition and subtraction instead of multiplication and division. So here are our steps. We're going to factor the denominators only. We are then going to find the least common denominator. Once we decide what that's going to be, we are going to multiply through the numerator and denominator to create those least common denominators. Once we get our common denominators, if we are subtracting, we're going to distribute the negative through the second numerator and then combine the like terms and simplify. If we're doing addition, then we're just going to go ahead and combine like terms and simplify. Then we're going to write the final form in either factored or expanded form depending on what is asked for. Be sure and pause, write these steps down, because we're not going to have them on the next page as we're doing the examples. So pause now. So here's our first example. And step number 1 tells us that we need to factor the denominators. So I am going to come underneath here and I'm going to factor this trinomial, and it becomes x plus 2, x plus 1. And if you're not sure how I got that, go ahead and FOIL it out and check to make sure it's right. Or you can pause at this point and use your process to make sure you get the same binomials. I'm going to cross that out. This denominator we can't factor. So I am now going to come down and rewrite So here we've rewritten it. Our second step is to determine what our common denominator is going to be. Well, here I have an x plus 1, and here I have an x plus 1. But in my first denominator, I also have an x plus 2, and I'm missing that over here. So what I need to do is I need to multiply my top and bottom of my second fraction by x plus 2 so that my new denominator is going to be x plus 2 times x plus 1 for both fractions. So here's the question. What do I need to multiply this denominator by to make it look like this? The answer is x plus 2. That's what I need to multiply by. So I am going to go ahead and multiply top and bottom of this fraction by x plus 2. So when I do the bottom, I get my common denominator. When I do the top, I get x plus 2, because 1 times x is x and 1 times 2 is 2. Now in my first fraction, I didn't have to multiply anything by the first denominator to get the second denominator. So I just bring down the numerator as it is. Now since this problem is not subtraction, it's just addition, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring down my common denominator. But I'm just going to write it one time, because now is the time that I combine my two numerators. X minus 1 plus x plus 2. Now, I am going to take this up here. X plus x gives me 2x. Negative 1 plus 2 gives me plus 1 over x plus 1 times x plus 2. I cannot simplify anything from the top to the bottom. I cannot factor anything out, so we are done. This is called factored form because I'm actually looking at the factors. Sorry about that. So let's look at a second example. Here's our second example. Again, the first step is to factor your denominators. My first factor nothing, I'm sorry, my first denominator, there's nothing here to factor. X plus 3 is as simple as it can get. My second denominator, it's not a trinomial, but it is a special case. So I am going to break this down into x plus 3 times x minus 3. Step 2 is to determine what the common denominator is going to be. Well, as I look here, I have an x plus 3 in this denominator, and I have an x plus 3 in this denominator, but this denominator has an x minus 3 also. So it looks like my common denominator is going to be x plus 3, x minus 3. So my common denominator is x plus 3, x minus 3. So we now need to ask the question, what do I need to multiply x plus 3 by to get my common denominator? I need to multiply it by x minus 3. So I multiply top and bottom by x minus 3. And I'm going to distribute my x. So I get x, oops, sorry, meant to go back to the black. X squared minus 3x. And in the second fraction, I already have the common denominator, so I don't need to multiply the numerator by anything. Since it is addition, we can skip the distributing the negative, and we're going to go straight to simplifying or combining like terms and simplifying the numerator. So I have written the common denominator one time, and then I am going to take the first numerator, x squared minus 3x, plus the second numerator, negative 18. And actually, since that's plus a negative, I'm going to go ahead and just put minus 18 from here. Now I'm going to look and see, do I have any like terms I can combine? I do not. So my question is, can I factor my numerator? Why would I factor my numerator at this point? I am going to factor my numerator to see if I have any terms, any like terms that I can cancel out with my denominator. So let's do this in green. I can do an x times x. It's going to be a plus and a minus. And factors of 18, it would subtract to give me 3, or 3 and 6. So we're going to do negative 6 and a positive 3. So I'm going to rewrite that. And I get x plus 3 times x minus 6 over x plus 3 times x minus 3. The reason I factor is to see if I can simplify. Can I still simplify? Yes, I have an x plus 3 on top and an x plus 3 on bottom. So that leaves me with an x minus 6 over x minus 3. I cannot factor anything else, so this is my final answer. Pause if you need to. We're going to go on to another example. This next example is going to be a subtraction problem. Our process starts out the same. We need to look to see if we can factor our denominators. So when I look at this, it is not a trinomial, but it is a special case. So I'm going to go ahead and factor this into an x plus minus 2, 2. Now, when I look and compare my two denominators, I have an x plus 2 here and an x plus 2 here, but I do not have an x minus 2 over here. So that tells me that my common denominator is going to be x plus 2, x minus 2. So here are my common denominators, and I've brought my subtraction sign down. Now, for this first fraction, I do not have to multiply this by anything to get my common denominator. So I am going to bring my numerator down as it is. But on my second fraction, I have my x plus 2, but I do not have my x minus 2. So I need to multiply top and bottom by x minus 2. In the top, I am going to end up having to FOIL. So I'm going to do x plus 4 times x minus 2. When I FOIL that, I get x squared minus 2x plus 4x minus 8. In my next step, I'm going to go ahead and simplify. So I've written my denominator one time. I'm going to bring down my first numerator minus. Now notice I'm putting parentheses around this. I'm going to combine x squared plus 2x. I combined my two like terms here, minus 8. Now why am I putting that in parentheses? Well, I'll show you. When I come on down to the next line, I bring my denominator down. I start bringing my numerator down. Now I have to distribute my negative throughout that second numerator. So I get minus x squared minus 2x plus 8. If you're not sure how I did that, watch that again. I am distributing my negative to my x squared, then to my positive 2x, then to my negative 8. Now I am going to take this, I'm going to draw an arrow up here, and we're going to continue it over here on the right side. I will continue to combine my like terms on top after I bring my denominator up. So I have a positive 2x squared minus an x squared, which gives me a single x squared. Since I want to write it in standard form, I'm going to go straight to my x terms. I don't have anything to combine with my minus 2x, so I'm going to come up here and write minus 2x. Then I look at my constants. I have a negative 16 plus 8, which gives me a negative 8. So at this point, I have to decide, I've got a trinomial on top. Can I factor that trinomial? Actually, I can. So as I bring down my denominator, I am going to factor my numerator, my x and my x. Remember, this symbol tells me that my signs are going to be different, plus and minus. My factors of 8 that will subtract to give me 2, is a 4 and a 2. Notice I put the 4 with the negative sign because my negative 2 up here. Okay, now remember, the reason we factored that was so we could simplify. So I have an x plus 2 here and an x plus 2 here, so I cross them out. That leaves me an x minus 4 over x minus 2. That is my final answer. Pause if you need to, and we will do one more example. Pause now. Here's our last example. Again, it is a subtraction problem. What I want to do here is look at my two denominators. Now, they have common numbers, but if we pay close attention, the 2 in my first denominator has an x with it. It does not have an x with it in the second one. In the first denominator, my 5 is a constant, but in the second denominator, it has an x term with it. So, they are not the same binomial. So anytime we have two totally different binomials in our two denominators and they don't have anything in common, what we are going to do is we are going to multiply the two binomials together, and that becomes our common denominator. So 2x plus 5 times 5x minus 2 is our common denominator. If you need to pause and double check how we got those two, do that. We pulled it from this times this. Now, we need to decide, what did I do to this denominator to make my common denominator? I had to multiply it by the 5x minus 2, top and bottom. So, on the top, I am foiling 3x minus 2 times 5x minus 2. That's going to become my numerator. Okay. Looking at my second denominator, what did I do to this denominator to get my common denominator on bottom? I multiplied it by 2x plus 5. Okay, so that leaves me in my second numerator with 2 times 2x plus 5. So now I am going to FOIL my numerator and distribute my numerator. Then when I FOIL 3x minus 2 times 5x minus 2, I get 15x squared minus 6x minus 10x plus 4. When I distribute my 2 in my second numerator, I get 4x plus 10. Now notice I'm going to go ahead and put parentheses around the second numerator right now. Now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to simplify my numerator here by combining like terms. So I get 15x squared, negative 6 minus 10 is negative 16x, plus 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and distribute my negative over here into my second numerator and put all of this on one line. And I get negative 4x minus 10. If you need to pause so that you can look and double check how I got the negative 4x and the negative 10, do that now. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next page and make sure then we can simplify from there. Actually, no, I don't need to move to the next page. Let's just put an equal sign right there and do 2x plus 5 times 5x minus 2 is my denominator. Then I am going to take the 15x squared. I don't have anything to combine that with. I am going to take my negative 16x minus 4x and get negative 20x. Then I'm going to take my positive 4 minus 10, and that gives me negative 6. Now, I happen to know that my numerator here will not factor, and I do not have any common factors in my terms, the 15, 20, and 6. So, I am going to take this up here. Since I cannot factor my numerator, I am going to rewrite that. And I'm going to go ahead and FOIL my denominator. And without doing this in 2 steps, this is going to give me 10x squared minus 21x minus 10. You can pause it and FOIL it out to make sure. And the reason I did this is because this is what we call expanded form. When we go ahead and multiply through both the numerator and denominator. That's what we call expanded form. When we leave it as binomials or with a greatest common factor out in front, that is factored form. Alright, if you need to pause it and catch up or look at any piece of it again, do that, and good luck.